Haverhill Bards. Come on, come on.
Hey.
And Mary McMahon.
You and Mary McMahon. Yes. So, in honor of that, I was delighted. I'm in the 4th edition of the Mary McMahon. Isabel invited me. I'm a newbie to the Mary McMahon. But in appreciation for them, I want to read a couple from here. I'm going to give you a little eclectic taste. There's 3 of us from the Bards. Actually, there's 4 of us in the Bards. One doesn't need an introduction because thanks to the Kennedy, who's now been knighted, Sir Cody Cucker. You just saw him. He will read. And Richard Smith, who's very well known, an excellent writer. He's actually completing a cable show at HVTV in the new building, Harbor Place in Haverhill, and he should be here around 4 or so. And Susan Waterman, who I don't know if she's going to make it. We're pretty much the ones who keep it going. We've been around for, I think we're in our 3rd year. We do readings 4 in the spring and 4 in the fall at the Battlegrounds Coffee, which is 39 Washington Street. An incredible place. A little piece of Cambridge in Haverhill, if you don't mind. Okay, so I'm going to read a piece entitled Gray Fedora, which is a hat, of course. But obviously, this is more than about just a hat. Polished wool, back rim turned up, front tipped forward, a grease stain line along the edge from the rub of your fingers. Perfect crown indented down the middle, insides lined in white silk and circular leather band, stamped with your initial and size, 6 5/8. Your dress-up hat, kept in the rear seat window, only worn on Sundays, never on the job. On a rainy night, I stole a hat for my Halloween costume, pulled it hard over my ears, crushing its perfect crease. It tainted me with the scent of your sweat, aftershave, and rage. Years later, after you died, I found the hat stuffed in a shoebox with the faint smell of you. I took the hat for the last time. This is a flashback poem similar to what Anne did earlier. Looking back at romances of the past. This is entitled Rear View. It began with a locker slam in the hallway before first period. She giggled as I dropped papers and my lunch on the floor. Sorry, you're funny, and I'm late for French. Wow, what happened? Does she like me? No, couldn't be. Then it was the soccer game against Averill Park High. Me as a defender scored a wrong goal. At the half, I slunk back to the bench, hearing boos and cheers. Coming up from behind me, she said, "It's fine, go back and get 'em." My heart leaped with joy. Then a first kiss in my car, in her driveway, as the porch light blinked on and off, signaled to stop and get inside. I drove home in a daze and singing. Dates, ice skating, walks, prom, graduation, and summer jobs. Off to college, she to one, me to another, 100 miles apart. A string of efforts to hold on and be steady. It ended as she found another. I'm still looking back.
Oh.
Now I'm going to switch you around completely.
Too many cheers on a pregnant stick.
This is called An Ode to Bob Dylan. I'll be honest with you, I was no offense to any veterans, I was a war resistor during the Vietnam War. Very active. There's a postscript to that. I'll say more about that in a poem I just forgot I've written. I'm going to read after this. But this begins with the first stanza of It Ain't Me, Babe. It Ain't Me, Babe by Bob Dylan. 1964. Go away from my window, leave at your own chosen speed. I'm not the one you want, babe. I'm not the one you need. You say you're looking for someone who's never weak but always strong. to protect you and defend you, whether you are right or wrong. Someone to open each and every door. But it ain't me, babe. No, 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 it ain't me, babe. It ain't me you're looking for. The ain't me, babe is pretty clear. It happened at the time when I was being drafted. Ode to Bob Dylan. December 31st, 1969. My selective service lottery number, 324. Just arrived, and I knew I would not be drafted before I turned 26 in 3 months. I erupted in relief and burst to Dylan's It Ain't Me, Babe, shouting to Uncle Sam, babe, while lighting up my draft card. I'm not the one you need. I'll not go to Vietnam, not kill, to protect you and defend you, whether you are right or wrong. And you were so terribly wrong in the Vietnam War. This was no easy choice, coming close to signing up, choosing to complete college and serve in the Peace Corps, 67 to 69, teaching in the Pacific, and then a year in Vista while the war raged on and on, thousands killed and killed. The number 324 meant an end to 8 years of anxiety over the draft in Vietnam. For Uncle Sam, I would not be someone who will die for you and more. As hundreds of thousands protested the war and the U.S., their voices telling me, and anyway, I'm not alone. So, I wasn't intending to read this, but I found it. So, a little postscript. I was in the Philippines as a teacher on the island of Panay. Learned to teach and read and write in Hiligaynon, one of the 7 major language groups of tribes. What the postscript is, in September, I'm going back. I haven't been there since I started teaching 50 years ago. I'm making a side trip to Vietnam. But Vietnam was in my mind when I wrote this during the anti-war years. This is entitled Scare Tactic. It began with a scream and a hang-up call, you dirty commie. So I just left the phone off the hook. It was mid-November 1972. McGovern had just lost the election, meaning 4 more years of Nixon and the bloody, hated Vietnam War. We knew the war must be stopped. We planned a demonstration for noon at the post office, many vowing to block access, chain ourselves to the door. I was a principal organizer with the mimeograph machine in my bedroom and holder of the bank account for our anti-war funds. Notices went out with my name and an address seeking support, along with cash and checks. Hate mail arrived, the scariest threatening to get me and cut your balls off. Demonstration day was cold and sunny. We decided not to block the post office. Angry war supporters appeared, but we were outnumbered. The police keeping us apart and peaceful. I returned to my car to see a note taped to the driver's window door. God hates you. You'll go to hell. Got to turn my clock on here. I hope I'm doing okay. You doing okay?
The bird arrived.
Oh, excellent. Okay, I have 2 more. Actually, maybe a third. We'll see how this goes. Immigration. Just a brief summary. I was in a group and doing some research on trying to write a poem about immigration, and mostly what I found out was the incredible Exclusion Acts. The first one being in 1790, which was a Naturalization Act, where you couldn't become a U.S. citizen if you haven't lived here for 14 years, you were white, and you were a property owner. I wondered most about being the 14 years, and it was 14 years after 1776. That's why they did it, the independence. Then, of course, the big one was the 1882 Chinese Exclusion Act, and then the 1921 Emergency Quota Act, where you couldn't come into this country unless 3% of your population was already here. So guess what that meant for many countries. And then the Operation Wetback Act of 1954, the 1966 Cuban Refugee Adjustment Act, where if you were Cuban and you took a boat, you got there anyway, you automatically came ashore, you were from Haiti, guess what? You get a free boat ride back. And then, of course, the DACA, Deferred Action for Children's Program. So, trying to pull myself back from this immense amount of information and data, I wrote this. It's entitled Aliens. Skin, blood, breath, eyes, teeth, and hair. I'm connected to each of you by dreams, hope, fears, land, sea, and air. Chains made, chains broken, they do nothing but hold, torture, kill, push, pull, imprison, or release the unspoken. Parched earth, green grass, birds in flight, clothes to carry, babies to hold for thousands of years, millions and millions by day and night. Why, where, how, borders, fences, barriers, mountains, rivers, snow, sun, sleet, whatever and wherever we struggled on our feet. Accepted, rejected, jailed, or set aside, how is it that so many made it and thrived, yet turn cold backs towards thousands that die? You, me, we, they, all of us, others on lands that were not of our fathers and mothers. Okay, in honor of Mother's Day, I have an older one and a recent one. The older one's from my 2014 book called Car. It's basically about my mother. This is entitled Name Taken. Ashes on the shelf boxed away, a handful scattered across the creek, bob and swirl with movements of white water. A memory with each passing speck, washing downstream, classed with images crystallized into stone. The last of 3 generations, bumping, bruising, and grinding into and away from each other, decade after decade. Passage of time and genes transferred one to another, fluid uncertainties making someone out of so very little. That sucks, grows, and consumes to bump again into others. Care and nurturing, nipple to headstone, instructions on wearing pants, socks, and shoes, car driving, and wiping oneself dry. Passage of words and silences with echoes of the dead into the crevices of the living. Homage to your giving, mysterious still, felt in a purring of the cat, sip from fresh coffee, discarded notes and buttons under the seat cushion. Generations roll and rock, a dustbin of wanting to forget, appearing in nightmares. Coughed up, sweated out, gagged upon, images of the dead swimming among the daytime business of the living. Your loss is carried ghost-like with fear and dread. Are the gifts you gave to be discovered still? Perhaps this bead of sweat descending from my eyebrow to chin is a reminder of your gift that accompanies me this day. Last one?
Yeah. Good.
Okay.
There's another card.
Okay. All bards are here, right? This is fairly recent. This is you go into someone's house, you see the refrigerator, what do they have? Photographs, right? So this is a photograph held on with a magnet. I added an epigraph to this by John Updike. John Updike's book entitled My Father's Tears and Other Stories is unbelievable, 2009. This is from the epigraph's from the lead story, My Father's Tears. This is the epigraph. It is easy to love people in memory. The hard thing is to love them when they're in front of you. This is entitled Kitchen Stare. You remain on the fridge door, faded and dusty. I've looked at you endlessly, wedged between our daughter and 2 sons. Though you have been dead a long time, your stare continues, like a laser beam aimed at me with a warning, you better be good. Shrunken in stature, having lost inches during your last years, abundant hair still yours, neatly in place, and bed sheet white. I knew what you were thinking, read your lips as I snapped this shot. Tom, I'd like my dinner now, and please refill my wine. That was our mother-son pattern, the push and pull, tell me what to do forever relationship that I loved and despised. They're not visible to others, but I see your scars and know of the pain and horror they hide, the tears, screams, and lies. Of the 4 of you that day, you'd be pleased to know the 3 are well, sons grown, daughter now a mother of our 2 grandsons. You remain the only absent one in this photo, a silence that continues to speak. it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Sir Cody. He's a great poet. He teaches at high school. He's a voice you will not forget.
Thanks, Tom. I really appreciate that. Kind of liking this sir thing. We'll see if my students adopt that this week. Yeah, my name's Cody, and thanks to Tom, I've been alerted and involved with a number of things with the Haver Bards. It's such a great supportive group. Last week they invited all the students in the creative writing group at the high school down there for a reading, so it's been wonderful and inspiring. So, nonetheless, here's some poems from a manuscript I'm putting together and trying to send out and win some contests with called Let Plains Be Stars and Brambles Beasts. You'll see the title in this first poem. It's called The Light of Anything. A plane can look a star in the light of anything, the light coming to be, the leaving light that makes far brambles beasts, that playful light behooving drowse before breakfast or after dinner, or before dinner if it is summer and been hot enough to destroy appetite until dark. You know this light. It is the hopeful one, and it is a hen squat on some old egg, a light cut out to allay those alone and generous. So even we who share a bed can creep on out while lovers sleep, or home from work, linger in the driveway before going in and let a whim breathe. But inherent in the light of anything is its limits. The plane will come towards us. The far-off bush we thought a bear won't move. And when what stars are and are not becomes clear, on our porch or by our car, we will be met with a choice. To look away as soon as what we thought was still admits motion, or to keep staring. For if we say plain, or that there is no wild thing in the field, we have to face it. What was is no more. So the bears and stuff, I had the wonderful opportunity to go to grad school in Fairbanks, Alaska for 3 years to get my MFA. And so I spent 3 years living in a dry cabin without running water or electricity. Well, I had electricity, internet, telephone, or neighbors. But we had a wonderful sauna that we used as a community, which was excellent. Nonetheless, that's where the whole grizzly bear thing comes from. I'm terrified of grizzly bears, but also amazed by them. So it's really interesting. Walk through the world now, you can be eaten by something. Talk about moose later. All right, this one's called Lilacs First and Last. And so there's a line in Wallace Stevens' Sunday Morning in which he says, death is the mother of beauty. And I think, as we all know, death is also the mother of many other things. Lilacs First and Last. At first, I thought the lilac tree an odd display of vegetative selflessness. The way its dried out old blooms, a mere brush away from dust, stick around rotten, making this year's first inkling seem more sidereal. Then I thought of being a brand new bud and yawning up and out into the world, only to instantly confront exactly what would become of me, and what I would have to spend the rest of my life trying to hide in so many short-lived flowers. I reckon death also mothers mockery. Thanks. So in that time, without people and a lot of darkness, I spent a lot of time brooding over the great epics. I can't read Greek, but they're English versions. So nonetheless, I think a lot of people have Odysseus wrong, and I've been thinking about this, is that throughout the Odyssey, Odysseus has all these opportunities to either stay with Circe or enjoy the lotus and escape or evade the pains of the world. But I think what people don't give Odysseus credit for is that he is pursuing his return home, right? He believes that life is struggle, it's not the escape from it. And so with the sirens, that sublime, those mythical characters whose scream is both terrifying and intoxicating, and you sit there and starve to death listening to their screams. They come in here. It's called Siren Spit. Did the men whose bones the siren songs collected know they were starving? That death was what they were being lavished with? Was their pleasure ever interrupted by knots being tied in their guts, their bellies becoming gourds? Did they ever want to leave inside bodies that just wouldn't or couldn't? Or were they placidly distracted from their plight right up until the day they just slept and then were skinless? And the starvation, Was their starvation that for food? Or should we read their left bones not as death at all, but as merely the absence of weight? And take the mounds of hips and heart cages as the very alive form of homelessness, of weightlessness, the form of lives fraught with escape, which Odysseus is always, despite popular opinion, trying to prohibit in his obsession with living, being that which bliss isn't, not even with Penelope. I spend a lot of time just looking at the world, seeing what it will tell me. I don't know if it tells me things, or I just make it up, but that's the fun of it, right? All right, this one's called Sin Eaters of Mendocino. So historically, I'm sure you've heard that Catholics used to pay people to come eat their sins, right, and get your way into sort of the promised land. So Sin Eaters of Mendocino, this is actually about birds. It's not really about birds, but, you know, it's about the gizzard. I'm fascinated by the gizzard, all right? I think it's such an amazing part of the world, and the way it looks, too, that opalescent little organ so that you can feed, it's wonderful. The gizzard. Sin Eaters of Mendocino. Turkey vultures clump along the fence between what feeds their gizzards and what feeds their guts. Some perch amid the rusted barbs, others in the gravel ruts. Others scan the pasture, shoulders incised into wind, coasting and tearing down like olive groves until the foxtails brush their chests. Their beaks red rims, all their loosed feathers blown away, slanting somewhere in the dune shrubs. I think about gobbling up flesh for food, and of their bellies dependent on the rocky, opalescent organ that grinds their prey's muscles into threads for their own feathers. I think about the eating of rocks to eat, pebbles tinking down the song pipe, gouge, a temporary lodge, a true weight in the chest, putting it there before one can do as one wants, savor the hot rodent. It makes me wonder if you have put down your shale, your debris, if you have taken into you the mill necessary for making your kills meat. Sorry, I meant to keep time. I got a couple more here.
Cody, do
Yes.
bears have gizzards?
No, they don't need gizzards. They have no problem digesting you. Funny part is, when I was in Alaska, they tell you that it's the moose you actually have to be afraid of because they really want to kill you. Otherwise, you just get killed accidentally by a 1,000-pound creature. This one's called Chopping Block. Today, I carved your initials into the chopping block. You should come see how clean wood splits, big the fire burns, quick grackles are guzzled. Come plant yourself at the edge of the flames in awe, unblinking at their efficiency, that I may bore again into the soaked orbs crowning your face and freeze there when the dark makes your eyes ice. Crawling and repentant, come willing to engulf me with your need and make me each brick of fuel in the fire of you as I have made you in mine. Come gorge on wrath and full, lay with me in this halcyon of wine and smoke, and while you're here, wipe these speckles from this knife and read the name that reared these hands' blisters. Come tell me I've chopped enough wood. I'm going to read this one because and your poem, Insidious Deliberations, is kind of also the source for this piece. So, when you drive around, you see those fake owls and other types of birds to keep pigeons away and whatnot, and I think it's amazing that these things are so effective. So, this is really about when the pigeon is going to realize that what you thought was a monster is not so monstrous. It's called Mania. How long before the pigeons know the owl is fake? Before, in their flock's clumsy fear, one's knocked into the fiberglass giant, nicks it with flustered wing, and settles with its death, all but swoons into the river before suddenly sending a rap screech skyward at the last second, buoyant as a pogo child, his spectral friends instantly tilting in unison, letting the scales, a group of them are, shimmer in the sun as they return to the roof's edge to perch and taunt the fickle wraith they gave life to. That's a question. Good, time for one more. One more? Okay, I'll make it a short one then. This will be really short. Oh, this is a brutal one. No, I don't want to go brutal, sorry about that. I'll go a little bit lighter. This one's called The Evolution of Gratitude. I want to know if these ripples have fins. With this I sin, with this I imagine and undermine the wonder of an action. I ask thinness for forgiveness, bubbled spheres cradled by water while they cradle air, still guilty, but like them, sudding up to here. Orreries seen only on pond tops, thanks. Again confused, a goof but true, I take to lipping kisses with the blips that break into circles, bouncing back from their outlines, with what's beyond them, shrinking beyond in. There are no words that won't forget something. Thank you, guys.